Okay, good morning, everyone. We are streaming via YouTube. We are calling our first case for today. I'm officially calling the first case for a hearing, the state of Georgia versus Derek Demond Thrash, warrant number 2022 CW 54423, and state of Georgia versus Derek Demond Thrash, warrant number 2022 CW 54424. The state will be represented by ADA Cheryl Freeman, and the defendant, Mr. Derek Thrash, will be represented by attorney Thomas, is it Florio?
Florio, Judge.
Florio, okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, is the state ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. Detective Walker, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony about to provide in the matter of state of Georgia versus Derek Thrash will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
You can lower your hand. Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
Detective A. Walker with Clayton County Police Department.
How long have you worked with the Clayton County Police Department?
9 years.
Were you working with the Clayton County Police Department on June 30th of 2022?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And on that particular day, were you with the officers who responded to the area of 681 Flint River Road?
I did not initially respond, but I got the case later on after the initial response.
The initial response, was that the Wayfield Foods?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the reason why officers responded to that area?
The victim, Nathan Meyer, was shot in the area of 681 Flint River as a result of leaving out of the parking lot of the Wayfield at 877 Tara Boulevard.
And just so we're clear, the victim's name is Nathan Meyer?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it M-A-Y-E-R?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Mr. Meyer transported to the hospital?
Yes, ma'am, he was.
And did Mr. Meyer, did he pass away or is he still living?
He's still living.
Okay. And were you able to interview Mr. Meyer about what happened?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
What did Mr. Meyer tell you that happened on that date?
He stated that on that date, he and 3 of his friends left his home and traveled to the Wayfield grocery store. One of the friends actually worked at the Wayfield and he was initially on break. So when they got to the Wayfield, Mr. Meyer stated that he went inside the store and went into the ATM machine and withdrew $500. He states that once he walked outside of the store, he observed a silver Chevy Camaro. Initially, he did not recognize the driver. Only thing he could say was a tall, light-skinned male. But he recognized the person sitting in the back seat, which is Cameron Patton, because they went to school together, went to elementary school together at Eddie White Academy. He stated that Cameron called him over and he went over to the car. Cameron was still in the back seat and the unknown driver was in the driver's seat. He states that he got into the passenger seat, and as soon as he got into the passenger seat, they had a couple of words, and Cameron pulled the gun on him and said, "Give it up." Shortly after that, he says that the driver took off out of the parking lot of the Wayfield, made a left onto Tara Boulevard, and he was struggling to get out. He finally was able to open the door, get out. Well, he said he jumped out the car, and the driver shot him in the leg. So,
wait, let me stop you 1 second, Detective Walker. Just so we're clear, before Mr. Meyer got into the vehicle, how many people were in the car?
It was just we'll later identified Derek Thrash and Cameron Patton.
Was Derek Thrash identified as the driver?
As the investigation went about, yes, he was.
Okay. Did Mr. Meyer, was he able to jump out of the car?
Yes, he was. According to him, he said he jumped out the car.
Where did he tell you he was able to get out the car?
Once they made the left onto 681 Flint River, he said he jumped out the car on the roadway in that area in front of the 681 Flint River.
Okay. Were there any witnesses to this?
There were no witnesses that I interviewed.
Was there any video surveillance that showed any of this?
Yes, it was. There was a video footage which I brought a body camera to the Wayfield, and I was able to actually see the Chevy Camaro pull up beside the white Sebring, and I was able to actually see the victim, Nathan, get into the car. Shortly after that, I mean, like maybe seconds later, the car did take off, and it looked like Nathan was trying to open the door and trying to get out the car. So there was that. There was also flock camera that displays the Chevy Camaro on Flint River at the time of the shooting.
Were you able to determine if the Chevy Camaro was registered to Mr. Thrash?
The Chevy Camaro was not registered to Mr. Thrash. It was actually registered to a lady. We did interview her. She pretty much stonewalled the investigation. She said she don't know anything about it. She said that according to her, her car was parked in the driveway of her home. Her husband also came to police headquarters, said that the car was parked. So we just kind of left that alone because she wasn't really cooperating with the investigation.
Okay. Were you able to interview Mr. Thrash about the allegations?
He refused to meet with me. We did try to contact him and speak with him about the investigation. He pretty much told me he got things to do, and he refused to meet with me.
Were you able to interview the co-defendant, Mr. Cameron Patton?
No, he lawyered up.
Okay. How were you able to determine that Derek Thrash was the driver of the Chevy Camaro?
Well, shortly during the investigation, the father of Nathan contacted me, and he said that his son Nathan did not know his name, but went through Cameron Patton's Instagram page and found a picture of the shooter. So they gave me the Instagram name of the shooter. So I was able to go through that Instagram page, and within the pictures of that Instagram page was Mr. Thrash photos. And it appeared that in the background, it showed him being a football player for Riverdale High School. So I went to Riverdale High School, screenshot those pictures, took them to the Riverdale High School staff, displayed those photos. They identified that person as Derek Thrash. They also stated to me that he had been kicked out of Riverdale High School for possession of a weapon in 2021. And they said that he was on probation. So I was able to get in contact with his probation officer and get a little bit more information about him. And coincidentally, I was able to find out that Derek and Cameron also worked at the Juicy Crab together. So once I put all of that together, I was able to get a search warrant of his Instagram account. And from the Instagram account, I was able to get a search warrant of his email address. So I got a search warrant on his email address and was able to get a geofence of his phone number. I'm sorry, I got a search warrant for his phone number. I apologize. Got his phone records back, and was with the help of another detective, we was able to pinpoint Derek Thrash's phone number at the time of the shooting and that pinpoint was bouncing off of a tower near 681 Flint River. So with that being said, it shows that his phone number was in the area at the same time of the shooting.
Detective, were you able to locate the Chevy Camaro?
I have not.
And were you able to locate the firearm that was used to shoot Mr. Meyer?
No, ma'am.
Did Mr. Meyer indicate, and I know you stated that he jumped out of the car, and he had taken out some cash from the ATM. Was he able to retrieve his cash?
No, ma'am. He stated that they took his money.
Has that been recovered at all?
No, ma'am.
Did all of this happen in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, your witness.
Thank you. Good morning, Detective Walker.
Good morning.
So let's go back. At some point during your investigation, did Mr. Mayer identify that he previously knew Cameron Patton?
Yes, they went to school together.
Okay. And you said that was Eddie White. Is that correct?
I believe it was Eddie White.
Okay.
I would have to look through my paperwork, but I'm pretty sure that was Eddie White.
Okay. Had they continued their friendship or their relationship past their school days at Eddie White?
I don't know if they continued their friendship, but I knew they worked together at Juicy Crab.
No. I'm talking about Mr. Meyer and Cameron Patton. Do you believe Mr. Meyer also worked at Juicy Crab?
No, sir. I apologize.
Okay. And did Mr. Meyer admit to you that he and Mr. Patton had actually been texting and messaging earlier this day before the alleged robbery occurred? Did he tell you that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Have you asked Mr. Meyer as part of your investigation to look at any text messages, Instagram messages, Facebook, Snapchat, any of those type of messages or communication that he may have had earlier that day?
Nothing I can remember.
Okay. Did Mr. Meyer tell you that he had planned to meet Mr. Patton at the Wayfield Foods to purchase narcotics?
He did not.
Okay. You've had a chance to review the video surveillance from the Wayfield Foods. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I understood you to say that you recorded it on body cam. Were you not able to actually retrieve the video from Wayfield Foods yourself, or would they not give it to you?
I was not able to retrieve it.
And why not?
By the time I asked to get the actual video, it had already been deleted. Okay. So I'm sorry.
What video did you review?
The actual video that was on their camera footage. And I believe I went there a few days after the shooting, and I took my body camera and actually recorded what I observed from one of our body cameras. And it should be uploaded into a bill.
Okay, and I may just be confused, but I thought you just testified that the video from Wayfield Foods had been deleted.
It was, by the time I tried to retrieve the video itself, like, okay, this is what I'm saying. I recorded on my body camera, but to get the actual video feed from them, it had already been deleted by the time I tried to do that.
And do you have a reason why you didn't do both on the same day?
I don't have a reason, sir.
Okay. And so you had an opportunity to review that video from Wayfield Foods. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did it appear from watching that video that Mr. Meyer and Mr. Patton had made some sort of communication or contact prior to Mr. Meyer going into the Wayfield Foods?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, because you don't know, or because it just doesn't
I
show
don't
it
know.
on the video?
It doesn't show it on the video.
Okay. Does it show? You had identified seeing on the video the two cars parked in close proximity to each other. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were they parked in close proximity to each other before Mr. Meyer went into the Wayfield Foods?
No, sir.
Okay. It was after that
It
Mr.
was-
Meyer had come out of the Wayfield Foods. That's when the cars appeared to park near each other. Is that correct?
That's correct.
From watching the body cam, or I'm sorry, from watching the video surveillance footage, were you able to identify anyone fitting the description of Mr. Derek Thrash in the parking lot or inside the Wayfield Foods?
I was not able to identify that, sir.
Okay. And is that because there's no video of it, or you just didn't see Derek Thrash on that video?
I didn't see Derek Thrash on the video. I did not see Derek Thrash driving the vehicle.
Okay. And were you able to identify Mr. Cameron Patton? Did you see him kind of loitering around in the parking lot or inside the Wayfield Foods?
I did not.
Okay. Based upon your investigation, any reason why either Derek Thrash or Cameron Patton would have known that Mr. Meyer had gone in the Wayfield Foods and withdrawn $500 out of the ATM?
I do not know.
Okay. And so I understood you to say that Mr. Meyer exits the Wayfield Foods now with cash money in his pocket. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Mr. Meyer explain to you or give you a reason why he went to withdraw such a large sum of money?
According to Mr. Meyer, what he advised me is that he was getting the money for offerings for his church.
Did he identify what church he went to?
When I interviewed him,
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. That's not relevant.
Yes, I agree, sustain.
Okay. What day of the week did this occur on?
What day?
Yes, sir.
June the 30th. May I look at the calendar, sir?
Yes, sir. Please do.
June 30th was on a Thursday.
Okay. And I've got that you identified the incident time at 3:35 p.m. Is that correct?
The incident time on the report is 3:43.
Okay. Any reason why you put 3:35 on your warrant application?
It's probably a mistake, sir.
Okay. Are there any other mistakes that you've made in your warrant application?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Can we take everything that you've put in your warrant application to be true and correct based off of your last answer?
Yes, sir.
And when he told you that he had taken this large sum of money out on a Thursday at 3:40 or 3:30 in the afternoon for church, did you question him as part of your investigation into that statement or claim?
He stuck with his yes, I did, but he stuck with that statement, sir.
Did you believe him to be accurate? Or I'm sorry, did you believe him to be truthful?
It's not for me to believe. I don't have any facts that he did not take his money out for church offerings. I don't have any facts that he did not do that.
Okay. And so you, in reviewing the video from the Wayfield Foods, help me kind of picture, because I haven't seen the video, obviously. When you see the cars, do they park, does one car park close to the other car?
Side by side.
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
From what I remember, the Chevy Camaro was parked southbound, and the white Sebring was parked northbound. So it was like this, if you can see.
Yes, sir. Did the Sebring drive over to the Camaro, or did the Camaro drive over to the Sebring?
They both drove up, meeting one another.
Okay. And you
Actually,
were able...
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
From what I remember, I believe I do remember, because it's been a minute since I watched the video.
Yes, sir.
But I believe that the white Sebring did pull up to the Chevy Camaro.
Okay.
But again, it's been a minute since I've seen the video.
Okay. And nothing in the video made you feel like they were forced or threatened or coerced into driving that Sebring over to the Camaro. Is that correct?
Nothing I could see.
Okay. And I understood you to say that there's a light-skinned gentleman that you believe to be Derek Thrash that was driving the Camaro, correct?
No, sir. The victim was able to look through Cameron Patton's Instagram page and stated that this is he gave me his Instagram page of Derek Thrash page, and that's how he identified him. I was able to get a photograph of Derek Thrash and do a lineup, and brought back in Mr. Meyer to do the lineup, and he 100% positively chose Derek Thrash as the person who shot him.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So let me ask you, so I understand that you believe Derek Thrash was the driver, and you believe Cameron Patton was seated behind Derek Thrash in the car, is that correct?
That is what was stated to me.
Okay, is that what the video, does the video that you viewed, is that what that shows?
Again, I was only able to see the Chevy Camaro and the white Sebring, and it was in conjunction of what Nathan Meyer stated to me.
I understood you to say that Mr. Meyer then got into the back seat of the Chevy Camaro. Was that
No,
on
sir. No, sir. He got into the front seat. Cameron Patton was in the rear seat. Derek Thrash was in the driver's seat. Nathan states that he got into the passenger seat, not the back seat.
Okay, so it's your testimony under oath that he got into the front seat.
The front passenger seat, sir.
Okay, good. All right. And so when he got into the front seat, I understood you to say that Cameron Patton then produced a firearm. Is that correct?
That's what he stated.
Okay, and what was the statement that Cameron Patton made?
Give it up.
Okay, and what did Mr. Meyer believe that to mean?
Give up the money.
Okay. Do you have any reason, or did Mr. Meyer explain to you how Mr. Patton would have known that he had that large sum of money on him?
Don't know. I do not know.
Okay. What did Mr. Meyer then report to you that he did?
I'm sorry, say
That
again?
Mr. Meyer did. What did Mr. Meyer report to you that Mr. Meyer did?
After he stated give it up?
Yes, sir.
I didn't ask that question. Because he said that shortly after that, the Mr. Thrash drove off in the car.
Okay. And Mr. Thrash, I understood you to say he drove at a high rate of speed. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think at one point you identified that either in your application or through your testimony as in excess of 70 miles an hour. Is that correct?
According to Nathan Meyer, that's what he said.
Okay. And is that what the video showed?
I can't tell if it was 70 miles per hour within the video, sir.
Gotcha. And so at some point you testified previously that he turned left onto Terra Boulevard. You then changed your testimony and testified he turned onto Flint River. Which road did he turn onto, sir?
Flint River, sir.
Okay. And which direction was he headed on Flint River?
Southbound.
Okay. And at some point, when does the video that you review, when does it stop recording this incident?
When he makes the left, that's the last part I see.
Okay. And when he made the left, was Mr. Meyer still in the automobile, or Mayer, excuse me, was he still in the automobile?
According to him, yes.
Okay. And Mr. Mayer said that at some point after he was shot. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And where on Flint River do you believe this occurred?
The location is in front of 681 Flint River Boulevard.
And what is 681? I'm sorry, I'm not.
It's an apartment complex.
And he informed you that Mr. Thrash was the one that shot him. Is that correct?
He said the driver is the person who shot him. And as the investigation went on, we was able to identify him as Derek Thrash.
Okay. Now, you've not been able to tie that Chevy Camaro to Mr. Thrash. Is that correct?
I have not, sir.
Okay. You've not been able to recover the Chevy Camaro. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you execute a search warrant of Mr. Thrash's home?
No, sir.
Okay. And you were not able to you've not found a firearm in the possession of Mr. Derek Thrash. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know what type of a bullet the victim was shot with?
I do not know.
Okay. And I understood you to say earlier that Cameron Patton did not give a statement to police.
I don't recall him giving a statement. If memory serves me correct, I think he asked to speak to a lawyer.
Okay. And so Cameron Patton has not told you that Derek Thrash was in the automobile. Is that correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay, and Cameron Patton has not told you that Derek Thrash shot this young man. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you testified that you were able to do some sort of geo something tracing, and you were able to place Mr. Thrash's cell phone at a location close to the Wayfield. Was that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Where is it that Mr. Thrash's cell phone, where was it pinging?
It was pinging off of a tower not far from the Kroger.
Okay, but and which Kroger are you speaking of?
The Kroger, can't give you the exact address. The Kroger, not off of Tar Boulevard, which is not far from Wayfield.
Okay, the one over near Spur 138 and Terra Boulevard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so the tower that his cell phone was pinging off of was over by the Kroger down Terra Boulevard. But you don't.
It's about a mile from Flint River. The tower was about a mile away from Flint River. That's where his cell phone was pinging from.
And as a result of your investigation, that's the closest that you can put Derek Thrash to the Wayfield Foods via cell phone. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. During your investigation, did you identify his cell phone pinging off of any other towers in the area?
That's the only one I was able to get.
Okay. And you testified that you reviewed flock video camera footage. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what route do you believe the Chevy Camaro took after having left the Wayfield Foods? It was south down.
Going southbound.
Okay.
Southbound.
And that would have been headed towards Highway 85 in Riverdale. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've not found any DNA evidence or anything like that that would place Mr. Thrash in a Camaro or at the scene or anything of that nature, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. And you testified previously, Mr. Thrash has made no statements to you regarding this incident?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Independent of Mr. Mayer telling you that Derek Thrash was in the car, do you have any evidence that Derek Thrash was in fact in that car?
All the evidence I have is what was already been presented, sir.
Okay, but I'm asking you, independent.
Nothing else. I don't have any other evidence aside from what I've presented already. Aside from Mr. Meyer's testimony, aside from him picking him out in a lineup, aside from the Derek Thrash phone number in the area of the time of the shooting, no, sir.
Okay. Let me ask you though, independent of Mayer saying he was in the car, not asking about whether he was near the Kroger on Terra Boulevard, independent of Mayer telling you that he was in the car, what proof do you have that he was in the car?
Okay, I'm not trying to be funny. Am I not answering your question?
No, you're not.
Okay, that's the answer I have for you, sir. Independently, I'm trying to do the best I can. Aside from what I've already testified, that's all I have, sir.
Okay, no further questions, Judge.
Okay. ADFM, do you have any redirect?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
I do have just one or two follow-up questions. Detective Walker, in your warrant for probable cause, you stated that it was Nathan Myers who stated that the camera was in the back seat and a driver who was light-skinned with curly hair. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time, the victim, alleged victim, Nathan Myers, was unable to identify the suspect by name. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so subsequently through your investigation, you stated you conducted a photo lineup and it included the defendant Thrash. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the alleged victim in the case, Nathan Myers, was able to identify defendant Thrash through the photo lineup. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and do you, the individual he identified through the photo lineup, do you see that individual on the Zoom camera today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you describe him for the court?
The young man with the orange jumpsuit, light skin.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions. Okay, 8 from, do you have any question in response to my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Attorney Laura, do you have any questions in response to my questions?
Just briefly. So
Okay.
prior to showing Mr. Meyer the photo lineup, he had already looked at Instagram and identified Mr. Derek Thrash. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't bring him a photo lineup and say, hey man, who did this? And he picked Derek Thrash. He had given you Derek Thrash's name and picture previously, and then you completed a photo lineup. Is that correct?
He gave me his Instagram name, and I went through the Instagram name. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay. I believe we're ready for closings. ADA Freeman.
8 waves opening.
Okay. Defense, ready for closing?
Yes, Judge. Judge, we would ask that these warrants be dismissed. When you look at the evidence in this case, Officer Walker places a tremendous amount of weight on the statement of the victim, but the alleged victim's statement it's an incredible statement. So he testifies that there's just this happenstance meeting in the Wayfield Foods parking lot. Because I remember all the times when I was in high school that me and my buddies just hung out in Wayfield Foods parking lots here on Terra Boulevard. He then testifies that he goes and takes a large sum of money out in the ATM. There's no proof that either Mr. Thash or Mr. Patton was in the parking lot loitering around in the grocery store at the time that this withdrawal was made. And then he comes out and these two cars meet up and then just happens to be involved in a robbery. Judge, what I believe happened, and I think what's more likely, and I think what Officer Walker probably suspects happens, was that they were selling drugs, and that this was a drug deal gone wrong. The idea that he was taking out $500 on a Thursday at 3:30.
I don't think we should speculate, though. We should be basing your closing on facts.
Right. So the fact that he took out $500 on a Thursday at 3:30 for church is preposterous. It's a lie. He didn't take out that money for church offerings. That's a lie. And so he testifies that he gets in the car. He testifies that there's some sort of altercation and that my client then drives out. But he doesn't know my client. So this identification of Derek Thrash is based purely off of him looking at Mr. Patton's Instagram page and then saying Derek did it. There's no independent evidence to corroborate that Derek did it. There's a Chevy Camaro that they can't tie to my client. The husband and wife who own the Chevy Camaro provide no statements that Derek Thrash has the car, borrowed the car, took the car. There's no connection presented between the owner of the Camaro and my client. There's no DNA evidence. He testified the young man's on probation. There was no Fourth Amendment waiver search of my client's home where they found a firearm or ammunition or anything of that nature. And the closest he can put him is at the Kroger down the street at Terra Boulevard. If there was flock video camera footage, we'd know where he went and how he got there. And the closest that Detective Walker can put my client is at the Kroger. That's it. And the idea that, well, he picked him out of a lineup. Well, of course he did, because he gave him my client's picture and information prior to the photo lineup. It'd be about like me telling you Ms. Freeman did something, Cheryl Freeman did something, and then you bring me a photo lineup with Cheryl Freeman's picture in it, and I pick Cheryl out. Well, of course I would. I'm the one that gave you her name and information. Of course I'm going to pick her out. That's what he was the source of it. There's just no evidence that this young man committed these crimes. And so based off that, Your Honor, we would ask that both warrants be dismissed.
Okay, ADA Freeman.
Thank you, Judge. We're asking that both charges be bound over to Superior Court. Attorney Florio certainly gives, his version of what he thinks happened, but for probable cause, Judge, why Mr. Mayer took $500 out is not relevant for purposes of probable cause. He stated he took the money out. He was walking out of Wayfield Foods, and that's when he was approached by the two individuals in the Chevy Camaro. Detective Walker testified about the footage that he was able to see with the individuals in the vehicle before they left out of Wayfield. Mr. Meyer made his statements that Cameron Patton said, "Give it up." The driver sped off. He later was able to jump out of the car and the driver shot him in the leg. He was able to later identify Derek Thrash as the person who shot him in the leg from looking at the Instagram page of Mr. Patton. He identified him. And so if Attorney Florio thinks that Mr. Meyer was lying, well, that would be something for a jury. But for probable cause, I believe that it is sufficient that the victim was able to identify Mr. Thrash. Detective Walker was able to determine that his cell phone was near the incident location at the time. And so at this point, we are asking that both of these charges, armed robbery and aggravated assault, be bound over to Superior Court.
Okay. Based upon the evidence presented to the court today, I do find sufficient probable cause to bind both charges over to Superior Court of Clayton County. That is the order of the court today, and I want to thank both counsel for their presentation of their cases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that concludes my business before the court this morning. May I please be excused?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Ms. Freeman.
Thank you. And Judge, may Detective Walker be excused.
Yes.
Thank
Before we
you.
move on to the next case,
Thank you, Judge.
let's the public defenders meet with their clients, and then